My name is Rafia Maxey, and my son's name was Jamal Clay. 1 year ago, I was just like you. I had a million dreams that involved my son, but not in a million years did I think I'd lose my son to suicide. It makes me want to holler. Will things ever be the same? Please stand with me as we fight against suicide. On May 27th, 2020, I lost my son to suicide. It was the worst day of my life. It is having a heart ripped in thousands of pieces that could never be put back together. It is watching your hopes and your dreams vanish away. It's like living on an island and no one knows or can even relate to the daily pain of a nightmare that never ends. It is one of the hurtfulest things you can ever endure. I need for the world to understand that we are all connected as it relates to trauma, violence, and loss. And that one loss from our village is a loss for all of us. So the resources, the people that can help, we need to stand and we need to continue to work together so that we can save a life that we never thought we would lose. I trust in my ability to go day by day to put meaning to my son's life and not just be a black boy that died and is in the grave. I work hard to send the message of how we all can prevent this and talk through and the advocacy work. I meditate, I pray, and I trust in God that things will change, even though my life will not. Good day, everyone. My name is Rafia Maxey. I am the founder of Soul Survivors of Chicago, a not-for-profit organization built on an awareness of suicide, trauma, and violence, as well as the impact it has on the Black community. I'm here today with a very good friend of mine who's honored us to share, Dr. Janelle Goodwill, who is an assistant professor at the University of Chicago. Hello, Dr. Janelle.
Hi, Rafia. Thanks so much for having me today. I'm looking forward to talking with you.
Thank you so much. You know, I just have to ask, what has research shown you about the rise of suicide and the rates within our African American community?
Yeah, thanks so much for this important question. I think we're seeing a lot more about this topic on the news in recent years. And the information and the findings, I think, have been heartbreaking. And we're seeing this impact so many families across the country. But research has actually shown that suicide has been the third leading cause of death among young Black men ages 15 to 24 since the 1980s. And so it's been an issue in the Black community for a very long time. However, it's only in the most recent years that we've seen some really concerning and startling trends among Black children, those ages 12 and under. And so research by scholars at Nationwide Children's Hospital in Columbus, Ohio, has found that Black children are up to 2 times more likely to die by suicide when compared to white kids in the same age group. And I think that this is very difficult for families to process because it is hard to imagine that a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old would be so hopeless or be so full of despair that they want to end their life. But the truth is that this is happening. This is impacting our families, our communities, and there is so much more work that's needed. So right now, we're seeing an increase, particularly among young people, among children, and also there's been a recent rise, a sharp increase in suicide among teen girls, among Black girls. And so again, while the rates of suicide have historically been higher among Black males, particularly those who are adolescents or young adults, we're seeing a significantly high increase in suicides among Black teen girls, but also some really concerning trends among Black children.
Wow, that's amazing.
In my experience, I never thought that what I went through with my son and seeing the end result would lead to this alarm of an understanding.
Mhm.
And as I reflect, sometimes I look at the past as we all do and what signs or anything that could have come that I would have known about. Um, what are some of the critical signs that you think a person like myself or friends or family can look out for in a loved one
Yeah.
who might be suicidal or just needing good well being?
Mhm. Well, again, I so appreciate your question and your heart in this. I think that your personal experience of this type of really devastating loss is going to be so helpful to other people who are also wrestling with this, particularly parents who I think are really burdened with grief about what they could have done or should have done. And so I really just want to encourage you and other parents or family members that the range of signs and symptoms can really vary. And sometimes people really just don't know. And so I think this is why the work that you're doing is so important so that we can better equip families and parents and loved ones and friends to be able to recognize some warning signs ahead of time. So the research shows that there's, again, a host of issues or reasons why someone might consider suicide. And I think that's why this is so complex and so complicated, because it's rarely just one issue or one topic that's happening in someone's life that leads them to feel like the best option would be to die. So some of the range of issues that people may experience or warning signs that families should look out for, I would say, are an individual being more withdrawn than usual, an increase in alcohol or drug use, isolation. I would say also very traumatic events like losing a loved one or a financial crisis or a divorce, any sort of really traumatic event that could lead to a feeling of hopelessness and despair would certainly be risk factors that we would want to look out for. Also, we want to think, about some just environmental factors that could place someone at risk for suicide. So something like having access to a gun will increase the odds of someone actually attempting to die by suicide. Also, particularly among young people and teens, if they're connected with someone who's recently died by suicide, there is an increased risk that they may attempt suicide as well. My encouragement to families and individuals who might be concerned about someone in their family, I would really encourage them and consider the best thing to do would be to directly ask that person if they're considering ending their life. Research has shown that asking someone if they're suicidal will not make them suicidal. That's a myth. And really, I think it can be helpful to someone who is thinking about suicide if someone that they're close to, someone that they know loves them, comes to them and asks them if they are considering ending their life. If someone says yes, then I think the next question could be really helping that person and asking them if they have a plan. And at that point, you as the individual could move forward and should move forward in reaching out to a mental health professional. There are 1-800 National Suicide Prevention helplines, but also local resources made available at hospitals and also mental health clinics that can be really helpful in these times of crisis.
My name is Shayna Matthews. My son is Devon Matthews. 6 years ago, I was just like you. I had many dreams with me and my son, and in a million years, I never would have thought that he would have been taken away from me by gun violence. It makes me want to scream. I just want everybody to stand up with me in the fight against gun violence. My son, Devon Matthews, he was 21 at the time. He was working at a car wash. I called myself moving to Skokie. Thought it was a little safer to get him out the hood, put him in a good school up north, and he started working at this car wash up north. And one day, while at work, a guy came to the car wash and shot my son multiple times in the back. He died on the way to the hospital. I got the call later on that evening that my son had been shot. On my way there, I was very calm because I knew my son was strong and he was a fighter. And I was like, oh, he'll pull through, he'll pull through. But when I got there, the chaplain was waiting for me and pulled me in the room and told me that my son was gone. It's hard to lose somebody, and I would never be called grandmother. I would never have any grandkids. I would never hear the word mom again. Thank you. And it's just a hurting feeling, and I would want people to realize that killing somebody doesn't make you a big man. You know, being out here, all this rap music and the songs, and you're gonna I have to buy your mama that black dress. It's not worth it, because you're not just taking that person out. You're taking out a whole tribe of people that love that person. And it's just hard. Every day it's harder and harder. It's been 6 years, but it feels like it just happened. Every time I think about it, it feels like it's just happening, like I'm just getting that call saying that my son is no longer here. What I need the most right now is my child. It was just me and him for 21 years. It's just me and him. That's all I had. And that's what I need the most right now. I can't get that back, and it's nothing that could replace him. It's nothing that I could do to replace him. I stay busy. I try to stay around positive people, but it's still that hole that's in my heart, that's in my soul. I stay by myself a lot. I try to stay around positive people that I can feed off of, and I try to help those that might be going through the same thing. I try to help them with maybe trying to get the funerals together, or just tell them about counseling, or just to talk to somebody that's going through the same thing that I'm going through. Because when it happened to me, it wasn't anybody really there that could relate to me except for my mother and my father. I seen my mother lose 2 kids, and I kind of just built off her strength. I pulled from her strength, and that's what helped me get through a lot of afterwards. Like from 2015, I don't even remember up to yesterday, pretty much. It's just like a blur to me. It happened June 25th, 2015. And from that date, I just remember that date and right now. Like what I do at that moment, I remember that. Everything in between is like fog and haze. And that's just how things has been since I lost my son.
I think there needs to be more discussion and breaking the stigma regarding it's okay to not be okay. What I found in my situation was that it was really ironic to be a social worker and work in a profession, but have absolutely no idea where to go to look for help or support for myself and my family. And I noticed in the African and American community, as well as communities of color, that the limited resources we have to just join a group or how do I find out about it is scary. What are your thoughts about what we should be doing or thinking about bridging that gap when it comes to really having those resources, like groups or even reaching out for therapy?
Certainly. Well, I think that there is so much more work that's needed. It is evident that in places, particularly here like Chicago, that there are such gaps in service needs, that there are such gaps in people having access that is available, that's affordable, but that's also culturally relevant. I think that is a serious barrier that we've seen in research, and even in some of our conversations, I know that has come up where even if a service is available, sometimes the person's providing services may not be attuned to the unique mental health needs of Black Americans. And so that can make someone feel even worse and make them not want to come back to seek treatment or seek help. And so really more dollars are needed to create mental health resources that are available within communities so that people don't have to travel an hour away to get to the treatment that they need. But also there needs to be, I think, more culturally relevant supports available for folks from different backgrounds, because some of the risk and protective factors may differ from people across different races.
Hi, my name is Elise Davies. My son's name is Rashawn Stephanies. He was killed June the 8th, 2012. 9 years ago, I was just like you. I had a million dreams I wanted to share with my son, but not in a million years did I ever expect that I would lose my son to gun violence. It makes you wanna cry, holler, scream. Would things ever be the same? Please stand with me against gun violence. The loss that I'm dealing with right now is unbearable. My son, Rashawn, was shot in front of our home, June 8th, 2012. All he ever wanted to do was just be a rapper. There's no words, there's no way to describe how I'm feeling. And I would never want no one to be in my shoes dealing with what I'm dealing with. Pain, I'm angry, I'm bitter, frustrated. I'm just angry. I really am. Because someone robbed me of my joy. And how you deal with that. What I need the most is closure. I would need for someone to get in touch with me, the police, investigators, whoever. 9 long years, and I haven't heard anything from anybody about my son's death. His life mattered too. I spend time with the kids I do have. I love my grandkids to death. I do hair. I stay busy. I just try to stay afloat.
The National Alliance of Mental Illness, NAMI, they have support groups along with AFSP, support groups for people who have lost a loved one to suicide, along with support groups for folks who themselves are survivors of a suicide attempt. And so I think that those are great resources to start. But I definitely see a need for folks like myself, researchers, and even folks like you, Rafia, clinicians, to be working together to make sure that these resources are better available online or in communities in ways that can really reach people in the deepest time of need.
My name is Davika Berry. My son's father, his name was Cedric Hunter. 14 years ago, I was just like you. I had a million dreams for my son's father, but never in a million years did I think that I would lose him to gun violence. It makes me want to question, would things ever be the same? Please stand with me in the fight against gun violence. June 24th, 2007, my son's father was killed at a party. The thought of losing my son's father is heartbreaking because my son looks just like him, and this is the person that he looks up to do all the male things with. I want other people to know that it's really crazy how this is just really a pandemic before the pandemic. All of this killing and everything that's going on, when is it ever gonna stop? I mean, I've gained the experience of just being frustrated and mad and just really being introverted. I used to be kind of extroverted, but now I kind of stay to myself and just be peaceful, because I'm really angry and frustrated a lot. The thing that I need the most is for people to understand that when you take a life, you just really taking out the people that love that person. And when you live by that gun, you die by it. So it's just best to just really kind of like take accountability and, just talk about things instead of just killing. I pray, and I just try to keep negative vibes away from me and just positive vibes only.
We're usually not talking about the strength of the feminine energy, but there is strength in the feminine and crying and in feeling all of your feelings, because that's love.
And being in touch with those emotions.
Exactly. That's pain, that's hurt, that's that raw emotion. Learn about trauma, what trauma is. It has a physical impact on your body as well as an emotional impact. And it's not a certain order that you move through those stages of grief. And those stages of grief were actually for people that are dying, in the process of dying, and not the loved ones.
My name is Valerie Wright, and Gwendolyn Wright was my mother. 6 years ago, I was just like you. I had a million dreams with my mother, but never in a million years I expect to lose her so suddenly. It makes you want to question, will things ever be the same? Please stand with me to increase and improve the health status of seniors in the African American community. I'm the youngest of four. My mother had 4 girls, and I am her baby girl, was her baby girl, until I was 44 when she passed 6 years ago. That was the day I grew up. I had to become a full woman because my mother had allowed me to be in that space, to be a baby girl for a long time. So I appreciate that. My mother validated me a lot just by looking at me. She enjoyed my energy. When I came through the door, she would just be like, what you got going on today? And so I miss that. Being without her has been very, very hard, but I got through it by knowing that her transition, like she transitioned from flesh to spirit. And so that's how I look at it. I feel her. I know that she's within me. It's things that she used to say and do that I do now. I see her within me. When I look in the mirror, I can see my mom. I can see her in my daughter. I see her in my sisters. She was the matriarch of the family. I'm very honored and proud to have had a mom like she. My mother was a very proudful mother. And the day she died, I felt and heard my soul cry out. I had a sound that came from me that I never heard before in my life. I knew that my soul had missed her already. Right now, I would say I need people to understand that you can't put a timeline on healing or deadline on it. Certain bonds, such as parental and a child bond, is something that will never go away. I also need people to understand that their parents need them. You have to make sure that you know what's your parents' health status, your grandparents, that they're going to the hospital, that they're going to their checkups, that they are taking care of themselves the way that they need to. I'm intentional about my healing. So I've gone on retreats, I've visited different countries. I feel I have adopted a philosophy that I can heal myself in different lands and that I can leave things that I need to leave behind. I can leave them in a foreign land and never pick it back up again. I'm really good to myself. I acknowledge when I miss her. I allow myself to do that. I've learned to put myself in spaces that help my healing and continue to hold my family together, make them stronger and stronger through our connection and love from my mom.
Considering Miss Davies and Miss Matthews and the situation regarding the loss of your sons, I just want to say I'm sorry for your loss. In terms of moving forward, Dr. Carl Bell who's a Black psychiatrist, talks about the social fabric of the community and the importance of becoming reconnected, especially during severe trauma such as this. And so in what ways can we connect to not just our local community, but also other networks outside of our local community? Some of those resources are EFT, which is emotionally focused therapy, where you're tapping on meridian points in your body that help to relieve trauma and stress. Also connecting with an individual therapist or a group therapist that specializes in trauma or in grief. They also have grief camps for children as well as adults to help get the emotions out. So at some of the camps, they actually break guitars, or sometimes they play music to help soothe your soul. And you get a chance to tell your story, because there's power and there's healing in telling your story and honoring the memory of your loved one. So keeping their memory alive and honoring them on special days. So for clients that come to me for grief, I'm reminding them to prepare for the holiday that is coming up. So you're not fearing it, because the opposite of fear is love, and love is the highest power. So we operate in love. And so how can we love on them? Because we know that spirit never dies.
I want to point people to an online website where they can find additional information, where they can use this and share this with others who might be struggling as well. So that website is actually the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. The actual web address is afsp.org. Again, it's afsp.org. And on that website, they have really detailed information about warning signs, risk factors, protective factors, but also instructions for people who may be in community with someone who they think might be at risk for suicide, and offers them directions around guidance and next steps for how to best help someone who's suicidal.